Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny. Today's video is going to be another installment of my beginner series. The first video was a base, so it was like primer, foundation, concealer, stuff like that. I will link it up here for you in case you're interested in checking that out. But today's video is going to be my face products, the stuff that goes on top of base. So contour, bronzer, blush, and highlight is what I'm going to be focusing on today. I'm going to do a quick disclaimer. Just because these techniques and these products work for me does not mean that they are going to work for you, but I have had questions in the past of how I do all of these things, so I wanted to show you how I personally do them on my face and my face shape. I will kind of give some tips and tricks just in general of how things like this are applied. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in and we'll go ahead and get started. So first what I'm going to do is contour. How do you explain contouring? So contouring is where you take some deeper shade powders, a couple shades darker than your skin tone, and you put them in the areas that you want to recede. Highlighting is where you want things to pop out, and contouring is where you want things to sink in. So in general, people want their nose contoured to make it look more slim. They want their cheekbones contoured to make their cheeks look bigger and more defined. Jaw lines typically too, just so you can kind of get rid of the double chin. I don't really do my chin often just because I don't. For contour, I like to use the Makeup Geek contouring powders. I have Cool Fair Infidelity and Warm Fair Bad Habit. I like to use them both because that gives me a more like neutral kind of contour. And what I like to contour with is the Luxie 512 small contouring brush. It is a very nice small domed brush. So what I like to do is I go into 1 tap warm, 3 taps cool, and I start at the top of my ear. Good rule of thumb is you go from the top of your ear to the corner of your mouth. That kind of angle is typically what you would want to do. You don't want to go too low because that'll make your face look droopier. You're wanting contour to lift your face up. And so what I like to do is start at the base of my ear and just do little tiny strokes right underneath my cheekbone. If you want to do the kissy face to kind of show the defined area of your cheekbone, that works too. And then once I get that down, I'm going to do little swirling motions and like up strokes. Rule of thumb, you don't want to go like past the outer corner of your eye because then it's going to just look really long. It just won't be very flattering on your face shape. So typically, keeping it further back and up is going to be the most flattering. I'm going to go in with a little bit more of the cool shade. So you can kind of see a little bit of definition from this cheek to that cheek. And so now I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. So now what I typically do is I take that brush with whatever's left over and I will just run it down the sides of my nose because I don't really like to do a chiseled contoured nose. I don't like the way that looks on my face. So I do like to make my bridge look a little bit more defined, so I'll just take whatever's left over and run it along the sides and then down the tip of the nose. Those are the only places on my face that I contour, but you can contour your jawline, and some people take contour up into their hairline as well, but I'm going to do that with bronzer, so I'm going to be moving on to bronzer now. So for bronzer, I'm going to be using the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer in the shade Bronzer. It smells so good. I like this shade for my skin tone because it is warm, but it's not like orangey warm. It's not too warm, it's not too cool. It's a really nice bronzing shade for my skin tone. The brush that I like to use for bronzing is the Luxie 520 Tapered Face. It has a nice fluffiness to it, but it also tapers so you can get a little bit more precise with it. So what I'm going to do is swirl it into the product, tap off excess, and I'm going to go slightly higher than the contour that I did on the cheekbones. I do like to go a little lighter on the cheekbones just because I do have contour there. And then I'm going to take it up and around the temples as well. In general, you want to add bronzer to those points of the face that the sun would naturally hit the most. So to me, on my face, that's like the tops of the cheekbones as well as the top of the forehead. So I'm going to take that bronzer into the hairline. This is also going to give you the little bit of illusion that your forehead's not as big because I have like a 12 head. So I like to kind of minimize the size of my forehead by blending that into the hairline and then slightly down. I also like to take bronzer around the jawline lightly, kind of like contour, but mostly just to give a little bit of warmth to that area. And I sometimes put some on the top of my nose because that's where the sun would naturally hit as well. I love bronzer because bronzer just adds that bit of warmth and life to the face, where yeah, blush adds some stuff, but bronzer just adds that color back to your skin that you naturally have after you put base products on. So now I'm going to be moving on to blush. For blush today, I'm using the Tarte Amazonian Clay Blush in the shade Party. It is a deluxe size sample, but it is still a really good blush. The brush that I'm going to be using today is the Luxie 504 Large Angled Brush. I like to use this because it has that nice taper to it to where I can just sweep it back. It's not too big to where it takes up a bunch of space on my face. So I'm just going to tap into the brush a little bit, tap off the excess. I'm going to lightly smile so that the apples of my cheeks become more defined. And how I like to apply my blush is right to the center of the apples and then blushing back up onto the cheekbone a little, because that's naturally where I would blush or where the redness in my cheeks show. So I do kind of want to put it in the same area. You don't want to bring it down past like the bottom of your nose, and you don't want to bring it in past the center of your eye, because then you're going to have blush in here and down here, and that's just not going to be flattering. It doesn't matter what the blush formula is, blush generally wears off on me very quickly, so I like to apply a lot at first because it's going to fade very quickly throughout the day. So I start off looking kind of clowny and end up looking pretty decent by the end of the day. Now to finish the face makeup, I am going to highlight. And like I mentioned earlier, you want to highlight the highest points of your face. There's lots of different places you can highlight your face. I tend to do just a handful. Lots of people highlight their chin and their forehead, and to me, that makes me look oily. I don't really like that on myself, but if you like that, go ahead. I personally only highlight the tops of my cheekbones as well as the bridge of my nose and Cupid's bow. So what I'm going to use today is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Amerezy highlight. It is absolutely beautiful. It's like a champagne shade. There's plenty of different shades for different skin tones. That goes for all of these, but as a whole, I personally like to highlight with champagne or pink based highlights, and this is more champagne. The brush that I'm using today is the Milani All Over Blending Brush. It is a really nice taper to it, so it's really good for targeting the tops of the cheekbones. So I'm going to just dip into the highlight, tap off, and right where the light is naturally hitting my skin is where I'm going to highlight. So I'm just going to start by putting it there, and what I like to do, I then like to blend it down onto the apple of the cheek so that then there's a little bit of glow throughout the whole cheek, giving you a nice glowy flush to the face. And you can go as light or as heavy as you want with highlighter. Lots of people go really, really super heavy. I personally like an in-between. I don't know, sometimes I like to be super freaking glowy, but today I'm going to go relatively subtle. I mean, without being like non-existent. So now I'm going to highlight the Cupid's bow, which if you did not know, the Cupid's bow is right here where your lips would naturally dip in. So I'm just going to take it lightly there. And it tends to make your lips look more pouty. It does look better if you have like lipstick and stuff on, but I do not. And then I'm going to go down the center of the nose as well. I like to put a tiny bit on the tip and then down the center. I don't like to have a big beacon in the center of my face, so there's lots of people who like go crazy on the tip of their nose, but I personally don't. I just like a little bit of a glow there. So that finishes all of the base makeup, but to lock it all in, I like to use a setting spray, and one of my favorite setting sprays is the Flower Seal the Deal Long Lasting Matte Finish Setting Spray. So what I'm going to do is shake it up and then just lightly spritz over the face. This is a really nice fine mist to it. And this just makes the makeup last longer throughout the day. So here is the finished base and the finished face makeup. So those are the steps that I use to do my face makeup. Like I've mentioned a million times, it depends on your face shape, it depends on your skin type. You really just have to experiment with products and techniques and see what works best for you and your skin needs and your face shape. Because just because this works for my cheekbones is not going to work for your cheekbones. If you have a longer face, a wider face, it just depends on your face. But these are the tips that work well for me and my face shape and my skin type. My next video is going to be a hooded eye tutorial because I do have fluffier hooded eyes. There are 20,000 different types of hooded eyes, but this is what works well for my eye shape. So if your eye shape is similar to mine, make sure that you subscribe so you know when that video goes live. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to subscribe, please feel free, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!